This is the Financially Simple Podcast, a show dedicated to destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner. And now, here's your host, pizza-loving, certified financial planner, Justin Goodbread.
Welcome to Financially Simple. This is a finance show for small business owners about money, how it works in our business and our personal lives, and ultimately how we can build wealth to be financially independent. I'm your host, Justin Goodbread, and today is episode number 19. Today's episode is titled, The Assessment. So I have a funny story to tell you. Last year, 2017, I had signed up for a half Ironman, and that's a triathlon. For those of you who aren't familiar with the triathlon sport, it's where you swim, then you bike, and then you run back to back. And the half distance is just over 1.5 mile swim, depending on the race. The bike is typically 50 to 60 miles, depending on the race. And the run is a half marathon. And you do those in a row. So it can be exhausting. So anyways, I've done these in the past, and I signed up for one. I try to do one or two of those every year just to stay in shape. Signed up for one early January, had it paid for. It was right in my hometown of Kingston, Tennessee. And about 60 days before the event, something happened. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, I don't need you to exercise for the next 4 to 6 weeks. And I'm like, Doc, I have a triathlon that I've already signed up for. I've been training for this. He said, man, I really don't need you to exercise for the next 4 to 6 weeks. You got to figure out what's going on in your health. So I didn't. I didn't practice. I didn't get on the bike. I didn't swim. I didn't run. Oh, it was fun, but I surely will pay dearly. Now, for those of you who've ever done any type of sports, you know that a couple of weeks prior is whenever your conditioning has had its peak. You have to be exercising. Yeah. So I decided to go out and do one of the hardest races known to man with no exercise. But I committed to it, you know. I already paid for it. My friends are going to be there. My business partners are going to be there. Some of my clients are going to be there. And we're all kind of committed to it. And they've been exercising, but not yours truly. So sure enough, I show up on race day. And, you know, I can swim. I know I can swim. I can get through this no problem. The bike, I'm pretty confident I can do the bike, but man, I hate running. Oh, Lord, help me if I get through this run. Okay, but Justin, one step in front of the other. You know, I kept it like you got to eat the elephant one bite at a time, had the mentality, got myself all psyched up, and the gun goes off. And here I go. I go swimming through the water, and swimming is my thing. I can knock out a swim pretty quickly, 20 to 30 minutes, depending on when I'm in good shape, maybe even down to 15 minutes, depending on the event, for a mile and a half distance. And man, I knocked the swim out of the water, got out, ran to the transition area, which is where you put on your biking shoes and your helmet because you wear the same clothes throughout the whole event. So I threw my helmet on, threw my biking shoes on, run out with my bike, get on the bike, and here I go. I'm pedaling. I'm doing good. It's in the hills of East Tennessee. So we have some pretty good inclines, and this one has a nice incline at the beginning, which means you have to also climb up it at the end. So I'm about mile 46 into a 56-mile bike ride, and holy Batman, I hit the wall. There are parts of my body which are hurting because I haven't conditioned myself. I haven't been training. So here I am. I'm pedaling as fast as I can. I'm cramping up. You know, mile 50's coming. Like, okay, I got 6 more miles on the bike, 6 more miles. And it's the hill. So I drop down to the lowest gear, and I'm determined I'm not going to get off my bike and walk. I'm not going to get off of my bike and walk. And I catch the worst cramp in my hamstring I've ever caught. Oh, my goodness. So I push my way through it, get down to the transition area after the bike, and now I've got to run or walk or hobble or crawl, whatever, 13.1 miles. Yeah, here we go. So I throw my shoes on, and I start. And I get to about mile 2 or 3, and I'm feeling pretty good. I get to mile 3 or 4, and I'm feeling pretty bad. Just that quick. It's over. This is a loop race, this particular one. So you run out in a loop, and it's 2 6-mile loops. And as I'm turning the loop at mile 6, my business partner who was behind me, he comes past me and says, look, dude, they got pizza at the finish line. Now, as the introduction to the podcast says, I love pizza. If I could eat pizza every day of the week, I think I would be in heaven. And all someone has to do is say pizza, and my mind totally loses motivation on everything. Not to mention that I am exhausted at about 5.5 hours into this thing for my little body. I am toast. So what do? Exit stage left. Go straight to the finish line. Walk through. Everybody's cheering me on. I get me a new big medal. I'm like, I don't care about all that. Give me the pizza. So I eat my pizza, and I go to the race official. I say, guys, I'm sorry. I didn't do the 2 full loops on the run. I smell pizza. And everybody's giggling and everything, but truth be told, I'm not sure I could have completed the race. So why do I tell you that? Well, besides the fact that you can make fun of me, I wasn't prepared for the half Ironman. Could have done an Olympic distance. I could have done even a half marathon and ran the whole thing. But I wasn't prepared for that particular event. So now we're into this point of our podcast of selling your business. And at this point, we've received possibly an offer, maybe not. You've walked through 18 different episodes to now. We're getting to jump into the details, but I want you to pause because selling your business is not a half Ironman. You know that. And we cannot treat the event of selling your business with the half-heartedness I entered the Ironman with. You don't want to be in the middle of a sale and find out you're not in shape, if you will, for that event. You don't want to be there. You want to have the mental fortitude, the financial fortitude, emotional, everything to get you through this sales process. So now I want you to stop. Before we jump into the commitments, before we start dealing with the purchase agreements, so before we start dealing with hiring people, before we start dealing with all the expenses and starting to deal with your company potentially suffering through the sale of a business, stop. And I want you to do an assessment. And there's two parts to this assessment I'd like for you to do. The first one is personal. The second one is business. So what am I talking about on a personal assessment? Let's deal with that first part. What are your personal goals? What do you mean, Justin? I want to sell the business. Yeah, I get that. Why? Why do you want to sell your business? Is it because you're tired of it? Is it because that you want to take some time and do some other things? Is it because you want to go hunting and fishing? Is it because you want to go on a piathlon? Not a triathlon, but a piathlon. That's, by the way, is where you try to eat 5 million different pizza combinations. Why do you want to sell the business? What are you going to do after you sell the business? You say, Justin, I'm going to retire. Or Justin, I'm going to go start another business. Great. Whatever your answer is, have you quantified it? What do you mean, Justin? Have you quantified your goals? So the most common goal I hear from people who want to sell their business is, Justin, I'm tired. I'm so-and-so years of age. I'm done. I've put years and years and decades into this business. I'm ready to just sit back and enjoy life. I'm ready to, quote, retire. That's perhaps the most common statement I hear. And if that's you, great. Kudos for the hard work. Kudos for reaching this point in your life. But what does it mean to you to retire if that's you? Have you quantified it? Do you know how much money you're going to need every year in order to reach your retirement goals as far as income goes? Do you know where you're going to live? Do you know what you're going to drive? Do you know what you're going to eat? Do you know who you're going to be with? How are you going to deal with your health insurance? That's what I mean by what are your personal goals? Why are we doing this? Maybe you say, Justin, I'm not going to retire. I'm going to sell this and go start another business. Great. What's the business going to look like? What type of business is it going to be? How much money will you need? So I ask you to stop and pause and look at your person. And in your person, we're going to examine a couple of things that you have to look at. You have to know how your cash flow is going to be affected. You know, one of the most popular things and one of the most problematic things I see in selling a business is many times we don't understand the cost of capital. What do I mean? So I have a friend of mine who's getting ready to sell a business, and this business is producing about $12 million a year in revenue. It's a good business. Top line revenue, $12 million, not a lot of COGS or cost of goods inside this business. And he said, Justin, I'm pulling out $2 million a year. Okay, we're running about a 15, 16, 17% income rate on this business. He said, Justin, if I sell the business for 3 times EBITDA, which would probably be $15, $18 million in this particular case, how much money will it generate for me? Well, we run the math, and where he's currently using 15, 16, 17% cost of capital, he's only going to get 5, 6, 7% return on his investment after the tax effect. So we have to look at how much income does this business owner really need? So you have to look at your cash flow. How much does he need to live his life that he wants to live? How much does he need to live his life to start another business? How much does he need to live his life to go off into the sunset, retire, and bore and drink Mai Tais? Whatever the goal is, what's your cash flow? And we have to look at both after-tax and pre-tax cash flow scenarios. We also have to now stop and take an assessment of our tax planning, our personal tax planning. Yeah, we're going to deal with business tax planning and how to minimize the taxes in your business. But we're looking now at if we sell this business and we have a nice check, what's it going to do to our income taxes going forward? Do we now need to stop and make some adjustments on the way our assets are positioned to minimize future taxes, being we potentially might not have a business in the future? You see, right now, if we need additional capital, we'll just work harder. Or we'll go out and create something, because that's what we are. We're entrepreneurs. But now when we want to go from this entrepreneurial phase to now a phase of theoretically retiring, how are we going to generate additional cash flow to offset whatever Congress throws at us in tax issues? We have to stop and look at our risk management. This is all the things that deal with legal documents and insurance. What type of insurances do we need? Do we really need to have life insurance now? That's a question. What about long-term care? What about disability insurance? Do we need those insurances? Heck, do we need to have personal liability coverage? What about umbrella policies? We have to take an assessment of our insurances both now and after the fact of our business sale.
You are listening to Financially Simple, destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner.
Investment management is another area we have to assess. When most businesses sell, we're typically dealing with what's called non-qualified assets. In other words, money's positioned in accounts that don't qualify for any particular IRS benefit. So the most common qualified account would be like a 401k or an IRA. They're qualified specifically for retirement. The IRS gives us some benefits for those. Well, whenever we sell our business, we're more than likely going to be dealing with taxable accounts, or maybe we need trust involved. Maybe we need to have charitable type trust involved. Maybe we need to have grantor retained trust or defective grantor retained trust in place. That's all part of investment management. Investment management for most business owners is not stocks and bonds. That's not who we are. Instead, we're strategists. We're trying to figure out how do we position our money so that our money will grow in the most tax-efficient, time-efficient way possible. That's investment management. Most business owners I know get pretty angry whenever investment people walk in the room because I'm self-included, I'm so concerned somebody's going to try to sell me something. I hate being sold. And you're like, amen, brother. I get so frustrated with the average investment guy who's there to pitch me, hey, today gold's a good investment. Tomorrow silver's a good investment. The next day, pine straw's a good investment. It's like, come on, man. We know what you're doing. That's not investment management, people. You need to now take a stop and look at your particular investment management process. How can you minimize the taxes? How can you position your assets so they provide you after-tax income? And then also part of your personal assessment is distribution planning. I just alluded to that. Can you position your assets to where you can get after-tax income the rest of your life that far supersedes what you need? And that's part of distribution planning. What are we going to deal with now when we sell this business? Or my client who sells a business for $30 million, he and his wife are never going to spend $30 million in their lifetime. What are we going to do with it? We have to start that type of personal planning. You see, now is where a CFP, a certified financial planner, you probably hear that tone in my voice. It's where a certified financial planner is saying, hey, Bob, or hey, Sally, we sell this business. Are you going to have enough income to live on? You are paying for your car out of the business. You're doing a couple of trips a year out of the business, and you're buying some food for your clients on events out of the business. Are you going to be able to live like you're currently living after you sell this business? And that leads me into part two. The CFP is going to ask you, what is the value of your business? You see, the goal for most of us is to grow the business to where it's just part of our overall net worth. Many times I see entrepreneurs at this phase of the conversation to where we have a very valuable business that may be grossing $10, $15, $20, $40 million a year. It may be grossing $1 million a year. I'll have a dear friend of mine that their business grossed $300,000 a year. And you're like, that's not a lot. Well, it is when your margin is 90%. They have very little overhead. It's a great business. I also know big people who have $12 million grossing businesses that their margin is 2%. And that's a lot of overhead. The goal for many of us is to grow our business so we can generate more income. However, before you know it, you're like the conversation I had this last week where I'm talking with a particular friend of mine who's now going to be a client, and he's got a business producing $13 million top line revenue, pulling out $2 million a year, but most of his net worth is his business. Most of his net worth is in hard, illiquid assets, things like real estate that's hard to sell. And now the conversation we're having is, Justin, I don't think I'll ever be able to sell my business. And if I can sell the business, man, I'm not sure how I'm going to live. I need to figure some way out to where whenever my body grows old, that I can keep this business afloat. So this is where business value comes. The point that we're in now is you need to have a rough estimate of what the value of your company is. Now, look, I'm going to have a whole episode dealing with business valuations and how business are valued. But at this point, all I want to talk about is a simple, very rough estimate. Now, your industry may have guidelines. It may be 5 times EBITDA, and that's a word that I've introduced that I find out many business owners have never heard of. And again, that stands for earnings before, so the money you make before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So earnings before interest and taxes is EBIT, and EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So you may be in a business that's 5 times EBITDA, or maybe 200% of collections, or maybe 3 times recurring revenue. And all of those are good guidelines to get you close to what you think your business is worth. My experience as an exit planner and a value growth expert can also lead me to see that there's a detailed assessment on what your current value is and how you can increase it. So you may say, well, Justin, my current value is $2 million. And I'll say, great. How much do you need to reach your goals? You may say, well, Justin, I need $5 million to reach my goals. Okay. What other assets do you have? Well, my business is primarily it. Or like the gentleman I spoke with this last week, I've got a lot of hunting property. It's worth about $7 million, but man, I don't want to sell it. So I said, it's off the table. We can't do anything with that. We just got to have carrying cost on it. He goes, yeah. I said, okay, so you really don't have $7 million in hunting property. We have a business and what? Well, I got some cash in the bank. So how much? He goes, I got $6 million. So, well, that's pretty good. But how much do you live on a year? Well, I spend about $1.5 million a year. Okay. So $6 million is not going to get us very far. He goes, no, that's why I'm talking to you, man. So what we're looking at now is if we know how much his business is worth, we can say, you know what, we need an extra $4 million, an extra $10 million in order to reach your goals. And so now we can figure out a way how to grow the business so that when the buyer comes in, theoretically, we should, if we do it right, get more money for the business. So we have to look at all the areas whenever we're doing this personal and business assessment. We're trying to look at through lenses, if you will, a lens to look at, well, how much money do I really need? How much money do I really need to live on? How much do I need to grow my business to sell? Many times, though, after we run our personal assessment and realize what our true goals are, and whenever we run our business assessment and realize what our true value is, our overall net worth, and how much we're trying to move from illiquid assets to liquid assets, we find there's a gap. And the gap occurs at many different levels. And it's called a value gap. So like I was saying, if the client needs an additional $5 million in order to make his numbers work, then that's his value gap. It's the difference between the value of your company, the appraised price, and what you truly need to reach your goals. So now's the time to find this number out. Before you put your business on the market to sell, now's the time to look at and say, what do I need to do in my personal life or in my business to bridge the gap from where I'm currently at, whatever my assets are, where I'm currently at, to where I want to be. So like this particular business owner, he could go out and sell his hunting property and be just fine. I mean, $7 million for a large tract of land in the middle of the United States is a nice piece of property, but he doesn't want to. And so instead, he reached out and said, how do I do this? How do I bridge this gap? Not even understanding what we're talking about today's episode. So the reason why I bring all this to you right now is because the last thing we want to have happen is to embark on this metaphorical Ironman of selling our business. The last thing we want to do is find ourselves in the run or in the final straits of selling our business and realize, you know what, the offer I'm getting is not going to meet my needs. And so I'm going to walk away. Unlike my Ironman where I could just turn in and grab a piece of pizza and laugh about it with the game officials, if you enter the business sales process without knowing truly what your business is worth and what you can reasonably expect from it, not wish, but reasonably expect from the business, and then correlate that data to make sure that your personal goals are cared for, until you've done that, you could end up damaging your overall net worth significantly. What do you mean, Justin? Well, as we go through the sales process, you're going to discover that a lot of your time, a lot of your energy, a lot of your team's time and energy is going to be dedicated to the sale. And as such, many times if we're not careful, the business will suffer. The revenues will suffer. The marketing will suffer. Many different things could suffer in this process. And you can also harm your potential buyer base, where if it doesn't go through, your buyers may end up coming in next time at a lowball offer. So friends, this is not an area that we jump into lackadaisical. This is not a haphazard, if you will, or half-hearted approach. This isn't, hey, let's stick our foot in the water and let's see if we can finish this Ironman. Yeah, I can laugh about it today, but I wasn't selling a business. What we need to do at this point, before we enter any further into the business sale, is to make sure that we're ready. We need to do a personal and a business assessment to see if this business sale goes forward and I enter this, will I be okay? So guys, that's it for this episode number 19. I'm going to wrap it up with saying this. I give you the silly example of my Iron Man as a story, as a parable, if you will, to show you the sincerity and the danger of where we're headed from this point forward. Now's the time to make sure that your personal life and your business life will come together. Many times they don't. Now's the time you meet with your certified financial planner, someone who understands business, someone who understands how to walk you through the process and grow your business if there's a difference. Now's the time when you need to do that. There's very few CFPs out there in my universe that know how to do this. Most of them are dealing with, hey, do you want to buy the stock or bond? And that just drives me batty. There's very few of us that know, here's how you grow business for a business owner. So maybe this is you. Maybe it's time for you to do a personal assessment. If you need help, reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to help you. If you need some guidance, reach out to me. Hey, as always, life is hard. Life is fun. Business is fun, but man, it can be stressful sometimes. Money, it doesn't have to be. Let's continue to make our lives at least financially simple. Hey, y'all go out and create an outstanding day.
You have been listening to the Financially Simple podcast. The information in this show is for informational purposes only. This show is not investment advice. Instead, seek help from a competent financial advisor. Justin Goodbread, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Heritage Investors, a registered investment advisor.